Hi there. So, welcome to lesson 38, which is greatest common factor and factoring rational expressions to be able to reduce them. So, really quickly before we begin, remember that it is my expectation that you submit or turn in your photos of your notes and your models. We'll look at what those should look like in a couple of slides here on the day that they were assigned as homework. So I have not had a chance to go through and grade many of those. I am going to do that on Friday. So if you have not done that, then you need to make sure that your notes and models are complete. They look like mine. You can look back into each of the days and see what they should look like as full notes and models, and then submit them under the day that they were assigned. And I'm going to grade those on Friday. So if you know you're behind, get that done. There is no school on Friday. There's no assignment and no tutor time. On Thursday, I will post. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. On Thursday, I want you to post the notes and models on Thursday for Tuesday's lesson. So I'm not giving you any additional homework over the weekend. And then next week, Monday is no school. Tuesday, we will do what you did is we will go over the lesson that you are having for homework on Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, group A is in school. Thursday, Friday, group B is in school. So please be aware of that for transportation issues. All right. Next, typing reminders. Just remember that exponents need to be in parentheses. So the minute I see this x to the fourth, I'd rather have blue. This x to the fourth, I know that that should go in parentheses because what I don't want to do is raise that to the x to the 4y power. My y to the second needs to also go in parentheses, okay, if you're typing. X squared needs to go in parentheses, but then 2x and 3 do not, because I'm not going to raise something after that into an exponent. Those are all along what I call the baseline. All right, it is now time for whoever is running this class to pause so that you guys can take the notes quiz in Google Classroom. Please do use your notes and view the accuracy when you're finished to see what you got right and wrong so that you can know what questions you have. If the substitute is able to answer those questions, that is awesome. If not, you can always email that to me. So right now, please hit pause. All right. This is what your notes should look like. So notes on prime factorization, greatest common factor, factoring, and then 6 different models. Under prime factorization, you should also have some examples. So please know that this is not like a fast one page, as short as you can make it. I want you to actually work these out and write these models. If you have not done this, then please make sure you take care of all of the lesson notes that we've been doing and get them in by Friday so that I can get them graded. All right, let's do some lesson tips and tricks. I actually think I have some good advice around understanding this a little bit better. So factoring and distributing are opposites, but both of those can use the arc arrows to remind you what to do. So I particularly liked what Mr. Newman did in there. And I'm pretty good about always saying, if I take 4 times 3a plus 7c, I use my distributive arc arrows to remind myself that 4 times 3a is 12a plus 28c. But what I can do, oops, sorry about that. That c doesn't want to go in there. All right, I'm going to scoot the whole thing over. C. But the cool thing that he did in there is if I had something that I wanted to factor, I can also use those little arc arrows to help remind myself what I am factoring. So if I said 3a plus 6, okay, so what I can pull out of the 3 is the 3, and what I can pull out of the 6 is a 3. And so what that gives me, that 3 is my greatest common factor, and that's a plus 2. Okay, so you can use those arcs. I think that's a great trick. That's not how I learned to do it, but I thought that was good advice, and for some of you that might click. So in the first one, you're multiplying a by each term in the parentheses by using those arc arrows. And in the second one, you're taking out, you're really dividing the common factor in each term, and the arc arrows kind of help you see what the commonality is. All right, next tip and trick. The signs between the terms is carried into the answer, and I talk about it being the greatest common factor times the leftovers. So take a look at this sequence. Number one, write the original. A lot of you guys skip that. Number two, we're going to rewrite the terms vertically, and then we're going to prime factor them, lining them up so that I can circle them. So if I look at this first one, I say 4x squared y. So 2 times 2, x, y. Notice how I kind of spaced those out? I didn't know how much space I was going to need when I started writing it, but I gave it enough space and it seemed to work. The second one, 6 is 2 times 3, and then x and then y. And then a 10 is 2 times 5, and then an x, y, y. And a 2, an x, and a y. Then I can actually look vertically and see that every one of them, 2 goes into every one of them, x goes into every one of them, and y goes into every one of them. So that becomes my greatest common factor. All those things that are circled up there are my greatest common factor. Okay, so 2xy. And then I started with 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So I'm going to have 4 terms in my factored. Now, it's possible that by factoring, I could end up with some like terms, but that rarely happens. Okay. I want the leftovers with the sign. So whatever sign was between the terms originally, plus, minus, plus, plus, minus, plus, are going to go into the answer. Then I look at what is it that's left over. So I have a 2 left over, an x left over, 2x. I have a 3 left over and nothing else, a 3. I have a 5 and a y left over, 5y, and I have a 1 left over. Now, this is a case where I actually could simplify this. So 2xy, I have a 2x, I have a minus 5y, and I have a plus 3 plus 1 is a plus 4. Okay? But if I want to just check and make sure that I did my factoring correctly, what I would do is I would redistribute 2xy times 2x, 2xy times 3, 2xy times negative 5y, 2xy times 1. And I discovered that my original, that was way up here in blue, matches my redistributed. Okay, so 1, write the original. That will help a lot. 2, rewrite it vertically and prime factor, lining those terms up to circle. 3, figure out what it is you circled. 4, in parentheses, write the leftovers with the signs. So the stuff not circled, not circled. Okay. And then always distribute and compare to the original to make sure you didn't make any mistakes. Last thing I want to show you. So most importantly, you cannot reduce or cancel terms. Terms are added and subtracted. Only factors that are multiplied and divided can be canceled. So if I start out with this 3xy plus 6x over 3x, I can't cancel out. So this is a no. I should do that in red. Red. No. Don't do that. Don't cancel out the 3x and the 3x, okay? Those are terms. Those are being added together. You cannot move those out of there. I'm getting rid of the blue frowny face and I'm adding that in, okay? What I can do is I can either, oops, I like blue then. I want to get rid of that. Okay, I can either split the denominator. So what that means is that it's 3xy over 3x plus 6x over 3x. So that denominator is a common denominator that can go under either one of those. Okay, and then I can reduce 3 times x times y over 3 times x. Those are all factors. I can reduce those. 6x divided by, 6 times x divided by 3 times x, I can reduce that 6 over 3 to a 2, and the x's cancel each other out. Here's choice 2. I can factor, which is what the lesson is about. I can take 3x out of 3xy plus 6x, 3x times y plus 2. I can do a little quick check to make sure that I did that right. 3x times y is 3xy. 3x times 2 is 6x. I did that correctly. Over 3x. Now I have 3 times x times y plus 2 over 3 times x. Well, the 3 is multiplied and the x is being multiplied. Only the y plus 2 are terms, and those are what are left over. So I can split the denominator, or I can factor, but I have to choose one of those two. And you need to know both because they won't always both work. Okay. Vertical fractions are grouping symbols. That's what this says down here. So the 3xy plus the 6x is trapped together until you either factor or split the denominator. You have to do one of those. So take a look at this problem. Can you cancel these two 9s? I am hoping that you say no. Those are terms, they're being added. This top numerator and the bottom denominator are grouped. So I have two choices. In this case, splitting it will not work. So the split makes it worse. So this is what it would look like if I did that. It'd be 6x squared plus 9. No, sorry, because I don't do it this way. It'd be 6x squared over 9x plus 12 plus 9x over 9x plus 12. But am I allowed to cancel that 9x over 9x plus 12? No, because this is still a grouping symbol. That 9x plus 12 has to stay together. Now I could factor some things out, and that's what I'm going to do over here. So I'm going to take out the greatest common factor. So a 3 and an x will go into that top one. So that leaves me with 2x plus 3. Oops, that's an x. And in the denominator, I'm going to take out a 3. And that leaves me with 3x plus, is that 4? Yep. The 3 cancels. That's it. That's all I can do. Now I could redistribute and make this a 2x squared plus 3 over 3x plus 4. That is my finished answer with no parentheses, but that's all I can do to this one. Okay, splitting makes it worse. Factoring allowed me to take a 3 out of both of them, or out of all 4 terms, right? The 6x squared divided by 3, the 9x divided by 3, the 9x divided by 3, the 12 divided by 3. But I cannot start pulling out things that are added and subtracted. You cannot cancel, you can't cancel terms, only factors. So I'm going to steal this again just so that it's in the notes. Most importantly, okay? So there's my tips and tricks. Let's take a look at some of these practice problems. I'm going to run through them and show you the patterns that you should be looking at. So hopefully number A and B were easy. If you weren't sure if B was prime, remember if you add the digits together and they're divisible by 3, then they're divisible by 3. So A was easy, 100 is 10 by 10, 2 by 2 by 5 by 5. 51 is divisible by 3 because 5 and 1 is 6, so 3 times 17. So I want you to look at C and D really quick. So look at what I did. Number 1, I wrote these vertically, right? Let me pick purple. These are written vertically. Second, I prime factored the whole thing, okay? One on top of each other. I kind of tried to line up my numbers, my letters that matched. Then I circled common factors. Then I wrote my greatest common factor, 2 times 2 times 2 times m, n. Then I looked back and I figured out what my leftovers were. Okay, so what was left over is this 3 2m's, 3 and 2m's, a 4, an n, and a p, a 4, an n, and a p. Check out D. Write it vertically. Done. Prime factor them. Split everything out. Circle what they have in common. Greatest common factor times the leftovers. Notice that this sign still sits in the middle. Look back at this first one. It's a positive sign. Positive still sits in the middle. Step 5, make sure that you're using those same signs. All right, let's look at E and F. Okay, step 1, vertical. Step 2, prime factor. Step 3, everything that's circled. Step 4, all the leftovers, I copy the sign. Vertical, prime factor, greatest common factor, everything that's circled. Leftovers with the same sign. All right, you're going to follow that pattern in the next one. All right, on these, remember you can't cancel terms, only factors. So you have to choose, you can split or factor. On these two, both ways work. So 6x over 6, 6x over 6, and 18 over 6. I'm going to split those. Or I can factor. I still end up with x plus 3. Okay? Take a look at those really quick. So this one, I can split it or I can factor it. So in this case, I split it into 2 terms with a common denominator. 9x went under both of them, right? And then I cleaned everything up. I ended up with 2 plus 5x squared. Or I could factor. 9x comes out of that top one nice and cleanly. 9x times 2, right? Always check with distribution. 9x times 2 is 18x, and 9x times 5x squared is 45x to the third. So I factored that correctly. My 9 times x times the 2 plus 5x squared. And then on the bottom, I have 9 times x. Things that are multiplied can be reduced. So I cancel 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. X divided by x is 1. And then the last one was really about taking out the negative sign. We're going to have a few practice problems on that. But I would just say, if they want that first one to be positive, just make sure that the factor that you're taking out is negative, but that switches all the other signs in the list of terms that's in your parentheses. Okay, so hopefully that helped make a little bit of sense. You're going to follow those patterns. Right? So, and actually, I'm going to copy these. Let's take these two onto the next page. Copy. All right, here are your practice problems. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. This is the next place that whoever's watching this class is going to pause and let you guys have up until the last 5 minutes of class to work on these. I'm going to have you work them vertically. There's none in here that you have to split. They are all just finding the greatest common factor. So really, you're going to follow this pattern. Okay. So please hit pause up until the last 5 minutes of class where we'll show the answers. All right. Here are the answers to those. Please spend a couple of minutes just checking your answers. And please hit pause. All right, last minute or so of the class. Tonight's lesson 57, least common multiple. If you have notes already, you can watch it speed it up. That's kind of fun. But please rewatch it regardless. That will help you a lot. Check your notes. Make sure that they're complete with all models. That's something that I'm seeing missing commonly. Submit the photo under Google Classroom under today. And remember that I am grading on Friday. All the notes, grades will go in. So make sure that if you've fallen behind, you get that done. Tomorrow will be a Google Form quiz. Bye.